Now the benefit to soil blocks is when your seedlings start to grow, they actually grow to the edges of the soil block. Your roots will almost air prune themselves, so they'll kind of air prune and stop growing, so they don't grow into the soil block next to them. And it makes transplanting much easier rather than using like the little cells that you put the soil into, because those you usually have to use like a spoon or some type of tool to kind of pop them out, and you can end up tearing your roots when you're trying to transplant them.
Right.
So when these grow, you'll see the roots kind of at the edge, and that is a good indication that they're ready to transplant. So we can just take these out, simply put them in the in our hole when we transplant them. We'll just kind of dig a little hole like this and get our spacing out, and we'll put them in here. If the soil is really dry, we like to water that hole first, put it in there, and then you kind of fill up around the soil block like that, and just kind of give them press in, and that's all we have to do when we transplant our soil blocks. Make mine at home. I'll just use some some nice compost and the peat, and then I would add some blood meal or bone meal that I could just buy at the local greenhouse. Get all the sticks out of it. What happens if we have these large pieces of sticks in there when we use our soil blocking tool? They can kind of get caught up in the soil blocker.
Sure.
And then when we make our soil blocks, sometimes we'll get a piece of, like a large piece of wood, right where we're trying to plant a seed.
Yeah.
And that will just be an obstacle for the roots to go down. If you do see issues with your seedlings when they're starting to grow, if they start damping off or getting fungal diseases, your seedling will start to grow. It'll start rotting off right at the soil level.
Oh.
And that's damping off or a fungal disease, and that would be an indication of your soil not being sterilized. And you can actually take some of your own soil if you're worried about it, and put it in a baking sheet and put it in the oven. We'll add water to this and let it hydrate up. So this is our soil blocker, and we just press this down in the soil mix, and it packs the soil in here, and then it's got this spring mechanism on top, so when we push it down, it pushes out the soil block, and then it leaves the indentations with these where we plant the seeds. We have our mixed soil in here, and you can see that it's well hydrated. I'll set it over here so you can get a closer shot. So we just kind of smash it down in there. You can do it one-handed too, and you just want to make sure you get the soil nice and tight in there. So just kind of put that in there, and then we've got our soil. And then we go to this tray, and we just kind of push down and give it a couple pumps like that, and then it pops them out nicely like that. And this is where we plant our seed.
Beautiful.
It takes a little bit of work. I bought my own soil blocker. There we go. And then these standard seedling trays, we work this way, and then once we get to the end, then we spin it to the side, and then we can put some along the edge. Alright, so these are our different soil blockers. And the size that we use mostly are the 2-inch soil blockers, which make these soil blocks, but they have these bigger ones that we use for larger stature plants like tomatoes and peppers, because you don't have to like keep sizing the pot up for them, but you can actually start a smaller you can start them in a smaller soil block. If you're doing tomatoes or peppers, you can start them in a 2-inch, and this one actually has an indentation that is a 2-inch soil block. So you can start them in this, and then once they get tall enough where you start seeing roots, then you can make a larger soil block with this a larger one, and then even this little 1/2-inch soil blocker. This one works nice. It doesn't make too deep of an indentation. There's certain seeds and herbs that you just pretty much want to put on top of the soil, and then cover with like a light dusting of soil on top. I did 20 cells here, so I can make 20 little 1/2-inch soil blocks. From this, I can make a whole tray really quickly. This little watering can's kind of cute, but yeah, it's got the shower.
Okay.
On, so yeah, we just kind of gently water them.
Okay.
And when we have the lids on, we usually leave a lid on these until they start to sprout.
Okay.
But leaving a lid on here will definitely hold that moisture in, and you can see the moisture collecting on the top of the lid. So in the mornings, I usually kind of tip the lid like this and give it a shake, and that moisture will fall back on there.
Yeah.
So you're observing how things are germinating, how your plants look, and then you want to look like under your leaves too, and just make sure that you're inspecting them periodically, just to get a handle on any pests that show up. So always observing and staying diligent in the garden.